be able to turn on your mic?
Oh, like that?
Yes, thank you.
Well, here, anyway, so were you able to hear me at all?
Not when you didn't have the mic on. I can now.
Okay. So really, what our goal here is to really kind of bridge the gap between the city and our local businesses. And, one thing that I asked of all the new city council as they were coming in, so what did you learn from the land use code? Because that was a dark day that no one ever wants to go visit again, right? I mean, we had a lot of challenges and, it was kind of heated. And so working with Rachel, she said, well, yeah, I think we didn't educate, and I think that's true. We didn't also know what our needs were, so we didn't have enough participation. So that's where we all come in. We need to participate a little bit more as well. But anyway, so she asked, well, how do we do that? And I said, in some of my past life, I've had a couple of these forums, and I found them, really great. Not only was I able to get closer with my developer partners, but also bridge them with the city, county, and even the federal government. So she asked me if I'd set this up, so I called many of you guys, and thanks for coming tonight. So again, a real warm thanks for the city council that's here tonight, and a big thanks for the businesses that help support my company and support the city in general. So again, welcome. So with that said, I've spoken to a lot of you guys, every one of you in the room, and there's a lot of ideas, some good wins with the city, some struggles, and some challenges. And we've kind of shared these together, and sometimes not so much in a good positive forum. So this is a way we can really kind of fix that. So I'm going to share a couple of mine, and then I'm going to turn it over to whoever else wants to come up and talk. So first off, here's a great win. So when COVID came out, my wife was on the school district board meeting, and they were going to close the schools down, as we all heard. So they were talking about needing Wi-Fi for the children. So I had my wife break in and say, call my husband, and he's willing to help however he can. So Mark called me, and we identified 4 places throughout the city that we could put these Wi-Fi hotspots, so the kids could at least come in, download their homework, go home, and then upload their homework when they were done. One of them I couldn't get to with our wireless offering, which was where the old high school was. So I picked up the phone and called Rick, and he had to go get it approved. Within 2 hours we had a plan, and the next day we had the hotspot up and working. Man, I tell you what, that's a great response, and that's the kind of meat and potatoes that we need, between us and the city. So, I tell you, it worked great. We had it up, and it looks like we're going to end up having to put it back up again, because I hear we're going to close the schools again after Thanksgiving.
What were those locations?
So we had one over at the auto parts store over off of Broadway. We had another one over at the high school. We had one set up on our main tower up there, and then the other one we just couldn't get good signal to before I turned my other tower up, and by that time we'd gone back to school, so we didn't get all of them up that we wanted to. We really kind of focused where we had a high concentration, trailer parks and whatnot, so we had a high concentration of the kids. So that's really what we targeted, and really was really all Mark's feedback. We did the same thing up in Dove Creek, but that's not for here. I mean, we deployed that very quickly, working with the county, so we have a great relationship up there as well. So if a couple of things that kind of just torque us off as businesses, and I was on the city council meeting, and Rachel and I had worked on this, and I announced that we were going to have the business forum, and the city attorney made a comment, and basically it was, I can see how this is going to get out of hand and get disrespectful, and if it does, you need to walk out. You know, guys, that couldn't be any further away from a relationship, is, in my opinion. I know I was pretty offended by that. You know, he doesn't feel that as part of the community that he serves, that we could be that professional. You know, no place there for that. So, you know, I had to say it, you know, that was one that just really stuck in my craw when I'm really trying to do some good here. So maybe that's some feedback that you guys can kind of take in and figure out how you need to fix that, or if you want to. So another one, everybody knows, and these are all my customers out here, that we were on the City Fiber network for the last 10 years. We were instrumental in getting services up, instrumental in, you know, making it profitable. And then I get here as a new general manager, I get this RFP put in front of my face. The city manager didn't work with all 7 providers on there to see if there was a solution without having to, you know, invite outside help. They did select a company out of Nebraska. And in the meetings, of course, being concerned, the city manager indicated that he was more than willing to give them exclusivity. Now, these are all my customers, and I've made commitments to each one of these people in this building. And I honor that commitment. And the city made a commitment to me. And I'm going to read a letter from the city manager, which will kind of show that there's no commitment from the city. So basically, I got a letter in the mail, you know, registered mail, and it said, letter comes to you pursuant to Article 3, description and terms of agreement, the non-exclusive network access and use agreement you signed with the city. So basically what it came down to is the term of this agreement, effective January 1st, 2020, shall be month to month, and will automatically renew for additional months in connection with any monthly renewal. The city may also, within 90 days from expiration, notify the service provider of new modified provisions as it requires in the agreement, and the service provider may either accept the term of the renewal or terminate at the end of this renewal. Now, you know, I got to tell you, we've been on this network 10 years. And again, I've made commitments to these people. What would happen is if you terminated my agreement, they have to choose another provider that they didn't choose if I can't get to them on my wireless. You know, the thing is no one called me. Along with this, there was a new pricing arrangement. I was contributing 30% of my revenue to the city. I contribute 74% of my revenue to the city on the fiber network. No one called me. We didn't try and work out an agreement. I just got this and they said, take it or leave it. Not really fair, not really a good way to do a business, you know, treat a business that's been doing business in Montezuma County for 100 years. So, you know, that's kind of the meat and potatoes of really kind of what happened there. The city manager should have sat down with us and see if there was an agreement. And then if we couldn't come to one, then sure enough, go somewhere else. I think we saw the same thing with the airport. As I listened to the city council meeting at the airport, at the end, the guy's like, you know, if they would have at least talked to me, I would have done a lot of the stuff that they wanted, but that conversation didn't happen. I think everybody in this room understands that it's really the city manager's job to do that. He is your leader, the CEO, not unlike me, of my company. So, you know, again, an opportunity missed where we could have not had all this, you know, I'm sure you guys got a lot of letters. There wasn't enough public opportunity for the public to even come up and say anything, and I think that's important as well, because, you know, you weren't taking comments before the vote, right? So with that said, you know, here's a trend. We've got a city manager that's not working with local businesses, and quite frankly, the city attorney as well. We need to fix that. We can't have islands, right? If we work together, we can get a lot of stuff done. If we work apart, this is going to continue. So it really has to change. for sure. And, you know, again, I'm going to go back again to the CARES monies that the county gave the city. You know, the city manager didn't feel he had time to, you know, deal with it. You guys made him do it, and thank you very much. But again, it's telling a story. And I would say the city manager has told everyone who will listen, he's not staying here. So he's not committed to our community. And from what I presented tonight, and there's many other examples, you know, it continues to happen. I remember when we were talking about the golf course, you know, and if you don't comply to my rules, I'm going to shut you down again. Do we really need to say that? I mean, we're all adults here, right? You know, we understand what the ramifications were. You don't have to threaten the public. You know, and again, I saw all the city council members pop their eyes up in disbelief that he said that. So, but, you know, we're watching, and we hear it and we see it. And, you know, we're part of this community too. But at that point, you know, there was only one hierarchy, and that was him. I'm making all the decisions, and you're going to do what I say. We all understood that. That's just a given, right? So anyway, so that's some stuff that I think that you guys really need to look at. He was willing to give all the money to Region 9 to distribute, and he didn't want anything in there. We have businesses that are struggling. I'm not one of them. I'm doing quite well on a bad situation. But, you know, as I go through this town, our restaurants are struggling. A lot of our businesses are struggling. We're having supply and demand. I mean, people are hurting out there. And it would be nice to have a city manager that was involved with those, knew who was really struggling, and worked with them to come up with a plan, not giving it to Region 9 to do it for you. So that's a couple of things that I saw. And another one was the BLM and Patriots thing. One of the city council members chose sides. You guys need to remember, you represent us all. We have a police department. If there was unrest, if there was laws being broken, the police department is the one who takes care of that. Had no business in here, and I believe you inflamed it when you chose sides. And I'm saying one council member made a comment, and I heard it. Everybody heard it. Everybody talked about it, and it got worse the next week. You know, I saw the videos. So we all support the First Amendment rights. Everybody has a right to speak. You know, but in a city council environment, you have a different responsibility, like I do as a business. You have that same responsibility to represent all of us. When you start choosing sides and do it in a public forum, you know, things have just broken down. And I believe we have lingering issues between the two groups, and I think largely because of that. Because now, one side or the other can turn the screws, and they know they're going to get a response. Sometimes saying nothing and talking to your police chief and say, really make sure you're taking care of business out there is all you need to do, because then you're non-biased. So a couple other things, and I don't want to be mean because there's a lot of good things that you guys do in this community. But, you know, when it comes to our veterans, you know, they were parking their RVs at the Legion Hall. That's not okay, per John. With that said, you know, you see them over at the Elks Club, and that's okay. And it was okay to have homeless in an RV in a city parking lot, and you guys were wanting to, you know, put homeless in another parking lot. So kind of conflicting stories there, and not really fair to everybody as we see it. To that end, we're really looking for leadership. We need a city council that will stand up and work with us, not tell us what they're gonna do for us, or in some cases people feel to us. So with that said, I hope that we can work through all these issues, get some real good, strong leadership, and as a community come together and make this place happen. You know, my kids are grown, but I want everybody's children to stay here and not have to go anywhere else. You know, so we need to build this city, and we need good economic development and growth. And we need a place for safe harbor, and we need to know that you guys got our back, and we certainly have yours. No doubt about it. And I'm 100% committed. So thanks for listening. I sure appreciate it. And, that's really all I've got. Anybody else would like to come up and kind of share your stories? I know there's some real good ones. I've heard them, and I know some of the same struggles. Oh, I did have one more, and I think you're going to hear this over and over again tonight. Many of us, this is an area we homesteaded, right? But we also, because we have land and whatnot that's outside the city limits, but we have a business here. We pay taxes, but we have no representation if we don't have an address in the city. I think we all would like to see any business that has someone that lives outside the city limits, at least have a vote, so they can kind of control their destiny of their businesses. That's our livelihoods. We don't have a business, we don't eat. So, and that's really all I've got to say on that for now. Who's next? I'm sorry?
Lana, when you speak, will you make sure the mic is on, please, and thank you?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Lana Waters. We've been here for, well, I hate to tell you how long I've been here, but we've been here forever, and I really do appreciate you guys coming out tonight. One thing you don't want is one more meeting, but we appreciate you coming out. So it has been, we've had a great working relationship as far as DNL Construction working with the city. That's never been an issue. We have had some communication problems with some of our other businesses. One concern that I have had just recently, a member of the new council did mention that he didn't shop in Cortez, and he wouldn't shop in Cortez. And that bothers me. You're sitting on city council, and you're out there in a public meeting, and you're telling everybody you're not even going to shop in Cortez? Why are you even on the city council? That's a real concern for me. I do have something that I would like to share, and I think it could benefit everybody if this was looked at. And this is a local vendor preference that the city of Cortez has adopted, and I don't know how long it's been in place. It does say it was adopted in 2009. But if you are a local vendor, and I am assuming this is for pencils, this is for vehicles, this is for whatever you're going to have to purchase, whether it be medians, whether it be roads, whatever, there's a preference not to exceed $2,500. That's the local vendor preference for the city of Cortez now. The local preference, if you go to Durango, is structured much, much different. So if you are a local bidder in La Plata County, you will receive a 5% preference over all bidders, or up to $100,000. And from there it goes down to regional bidders. A regional bidder is someone who does business in and within Region 9. You are still allowed a 3% preference over a non-resident bidder up to $40,000. So which is saying if you shop local, which I think as a city we all should shop local, you spend that money over and over and over. Your employees that are here spend it over. They go to the grocery store. It just trickles down. And I think that is something that the city should look at. I think it would benefit everybody. I think, from what I understand, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think that if this had been applied, maybe the airport wouldn't have been such a big issue. I'm not, as far as dollars go, you know. So I don't know. I think communication is huge, and I think that we saw that with the land use code. And I think that we can learn from that. I think another thing is transparency. You know, I don't know. You can have that. Yep. So, okay.
Thanks, Lana. And I will say, you know, I'll give you a story. Actually, I came up for a new vehicle. I hired a couple of new employees, and I went to Durango, and I got a hell of a deal. My board told me, you do that again, and we're going to knock you in the back of the head. We want you to shop local, even if it costs a little bit more, and which is the right thing to do. That was definitely the right thing to do. It was in the middle of COVID, and I had a hard time getting anybody to meet you to do that. But you know, that's an example. You know, I'll tell you, I shop at Slavens, and you know, I'm happy to do that because I'm supporting our local businesses. And quite frankly, Slavens, you know, they support me as well. I do have a letter from Carla that I'll read in a little while. But with that said, next. Come on, Mitchell, I know.
Okay, I don't mind, but I get to go home and eat lasagna earlier if I get to speak now.
Well, I'll be over in a little while.
Hello, I'm Mitchell Toms. Hey, we gotta stop meeting like this now. Every night Rob and I have been in a meeting, it seems like. I'm Mitchell Toms. I live here in Cortez, Colorado. I moved here in 2005 from Virginia. I made me a few notes so I can kind of stay on target here. I like to start off saying that, you know, I learned some lessons in life early. My grandmother, who I grew up with, my grandmother and grandfather, and a single mom. Anyway, my grandma always said, be patient. My grandpa always said, be careful what you wish for. My mother said, always say please and thank you. I have 5 children from 51 to 22, and they're all pretty consistent. They say don't lecture. And my friends say be brief, so I know you want me to be brief, and I will work through this. I'm going to address some things that I think generally, as someone that's in business here in Cortez, would be interested in. When I moved here, I was fortunate that I felt welcome. You could walk up and down the street and people say hello to you, strangers. It was just, you know, a very comfortable place to be. I got to serve Tom Maley, and Tom has been here a lot longer, knows a lot more history, but Tom and I got to serve together on the revamped Montezuma Community Economic Development Council when they revamped it. And so I learned a lot of things about Montezuma County, Cortez, Mancos, Dolores, Toyac. So working with the people all over Montezuma County, I found that one issue that seems to be consistent is budgets and budgeting. There's always a need to balance a budget for operational things that take place, whether it's in a city or a town or the county. And just like my children, you know, I work and still am working really hard with them, that, it's very important to balance your checkbook. Because most people don't like to pay any more taxes than they have to. And if you receive money from the public, we like to think that you spend it wisely. So that would be a general statement. From a business standpoint, I think most businesses in this area want to be open. They want to be open totally. And there are some that do not. But we live in a country that allows you to have choices and make decisions. And I like to think that's a freedom that I've enjoyed. Essential services, that's a word that came up early when they started doing lockdowns and things in the community. And I found it somewhat interesting and somewhat humorous, because most people, I think, use logic and reason about things. And I think, grocery stores being open was an important thing. But convenience stores were considered essential. We have one big box here. We have Walmart. We have a couple of other stores that kind of semi-big box stores. But, Walmart was left open. And I'm happy for it, because I've said before, I'm all for all businesses being totally open. I found it interesting that the marijuana stores and the liquor stores were essential services. To some people, like freedom and choice, obviously, that might be something important. But I also know from a person that works with finances and pays taxes here that they're probably taxed the most, and local governments probably have found throughout the state of Colorado, since marijuana is legal, that they're taxed pretty high, and that becomes an essential part of the budget and the finance. So it made pretty much sense to me from a logic standpoint why maybe that was an essential service, even though sometimes I questioned it. Anyway, moving on, communications. I think Terry has said a number of things here that strike very close to home about communicating with the local populace. We have 25,000 people in pretty much countywide, around 8,000 or so here in Cortez, a couple of thousand in Toyoak, I think around 800 or 900 in Dolores, and 1,000 or so in the Mancos area. Those demographics, are speak pretty clearly to people, because I've found out here people are very independent, very loyal, but very independent. Mancos is Mancos, Dolores is Dolores. Cortez kind of falls in the middle. Toyoak is Toyoak. I learned being part of the economic development group that, Toyoak is the largest employer in Montezuma County. So if you're hearing it for the first time, a lot of people don't know these sort of things. But the people here are very hardworking. They like to be communicated with. And you go back and you go in simple terms, because in my 71 years on this earth, I've never experienced something like we have been going through since February or March. So you ask, who is making these mandates? Who's making these demands for us to do things that we haven't been doing? I think that needs to be identified very clearly from the beginning, once again, for communicating. Are these individuals or people that are making the mandates and demands, are they being fair? And probably more than anything, are they being consistent? And if anybody follows this, at least from my perspective, there hadn't been a whole lot of consistency. And then it goes on into enforcing, who's doing the enforcing. I think around here we're very fortunate that our sheriff's department, our police, our first responders with the fire departments and with the emergency services. We're very, very fortunate in a community this size to have people that are so dedicated to what they do that we can actually still walk the streets at night in Cortez, Colorado. So, but things that were mandated, the things that requirements that were made, you know, they've changed over the months. They started, and I don't watch very much television or anything like that. I read the newspapers and you know, from cover to cover, but I don't follow most of the news. I don't watch very much television, but over the months, it's very interesting that some of the people that were in positions of authority and experts have gone from saying, oh, we don't need to do this, to yes, we need to do that, and no, now we don't need to do that, now we need to do this. So I go back to that word consistency again. I don't think there's been a whole lot of consistency. And I'm not speaking about politics, I'm just speaking about the people that supposedly from the Centers for Disease Control and so forth, if you go and read their information, which I did, it's interesting what they've said that they recommend and what they don't recommend. I suggest that you do it. You might not be wearing masks if you read what they say, but that's okay. It's all right that you do. I'm fortunate, I'm very healthy. My wife's a nutritionist. She's been in business here for 40 years with Abundant Life, and I am very, very fortunate to have someone that understands and takes care of people for health reasons. And I recommend it to everyone else. Wherever you go, we are very fortunate here that we have medical services and stuff for a small community that many don't. Service. I've served in many things over 71 years. I was in the military for over 20 years. And I was with my son. He lives up in Avon, and he's a commercial painter. It was very interesting that I was in the construction business from the time I was in my teens. And, you know, we would work in dirty environments and stuff like that, and we'd wear masks. And we still do. Because when you stir up stuff, you guys know what I'm talking about. You stir up stuff, you need it just to protect your breathing and your employees and so forth. So that wasn't like a big question mark, but he said it's like in his business, they have masks that they wear when they're doing their painting and so forth. But with this particular issue that's going on, if they are not wearing a certain type of mask, they can be fined like $10,000 for not wearing the correct mask. Very interesting, you know, to talk to my own children that are, you know, running, you know, a construction business basically and that sort of stuff. In the military, we used to train every year, and I did this over 20-some years, for biological, nuclear fallout and all of this sort of stuff. We'd wear gas masks and do all this stuff. And I remember that sometimes we'd have to do it for weeks in the training. Fortunately, I didn't have to experience the real thing like a lot of people in World War I and World War II did, but I still did all the training for over 20 years. And I just remember, how people that I'm serving with, after a while, you'd get really tired of stuff that you were finding it really wasn't making a difference. So, it's kind of interesting at this place in my life to be watching some of the things that go on. And I know that a lot of people, even in my own family, are older, and they older than me, and people have conditions, pre-existing conditions, and yes, if you're ill or you're sick or you have those conditions, yes, you want to be protected, and you should be protected. And I like to tell people, well, I'm 71 years old. I'm in the target range of people that could possibly get the coronavirus. Heck, I could get the flu, I could get pneumonia, I could get the measles or the mumps or anything else. And I guess if you went out and tested for each one of those things, probably half of us would be positive for most of that stuff anyway. If you disagree with me, that's fine, but, consider it. But in serving all those years in the military, I felt like I had to tell my children something. And I felt that although I took an oath and to uphold the Constitution and all these things, I didn't realize how much I was giving away by taking that oath. Because sometimes I was in situations that I would have to say internally, like, what am I doing here and why am I doing this? I don't know if I signed up for this. I don't know if any of you had that experience if you're in the military, but you might run through your mind. But I found at the basis of all that is I felt that I was preserving the freedoms for everybody, a safety for all the people. And I really mean that for everyone. And so it kind of, all the enthusiasm that's gone on with this most recent election, kind of warmed my heart, because more people are out voting, more people are out supporting their candidates, more people are out just supporting their freedoms and their opportunities to be out there and doing it. I think that if that doesn't get you excited about where we live, I don't think anything else will. So, community, as I said, I moved here in 2005. I feel I'm very blessed here. But I think everything is relative, and I think it matters where you have lived, how you've grown up. But, we come to share experiences. And I really like it here in Montezuma County. As much as any place I've ever been. I feel I'm very blessed. I hope you do. I appreciate this opportunity to speak to you, because I don't do this very often at all. But I see a lot of faces I recognize out here today. If there's ever anything that I can do to help you, I'm here. And I appreciate everything that you've done to help me. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mitchell. Yeah, I agree with everything he said, and I chose this community myself, and this is where I'm retiring, so I was very picky on where I did come. So, Tom, would you like to come up? Kevin? Monty?
Thank you, Terry. Monty Giles. So I own Circle Z Construction that's south of town. I'm just outside the city limits, so there you have that. I wasn't exactly sure why you asked us here today, but I think that the opportunity to speak to the council and to Shaq and even Kent at this point, given that he's a new commissioner, it will bear well. And the one thing that I would ask is that, and as you guys mostly know, I ran for commissioner unsuccessfully. But one of the things that was very important to me was that we could get the city of Cortez and the county of Montezuma to work together and work together closely. And I understand that Cortez is sort of the little blueberry inside of the strawberry. It just really is. So the county itself is more red and the city itself is more blue. And there are many things that we can affect locally that we cannot affect on a national level. And we should bear those things in mind as community leaders, whether it's city council and or county commissioners. There's many things that we can do to make our county and city better. And you know, Kent and I have had this conversation many times that won't affect our national politic. And when the city and or the county, for that matter, takes a stand because of their political views that is detrimental to the county as a whole, that's frustrating. And it doesn't get things done for us locally. And locally, we can make a difference. Whether you're city council, Cortez is obviously the business district of our community. And then you have, of course, Dolores and Minkus and Toyac and you know, as far moving north up 491 as well. But if we don't work together, it's frustrating. And many times, and you know, I've worked with the city very closely as the owner's rep for the county when I built the courthouse. So with regard to permitting and dealing with building permits and operating with inside the city and the city manager at that time and the city engineer at that time, neither of which are still with us, and the inspector at that time. There was a polarization that existed that should not. I mean, that should not exist, whether it's the county attorney, and I don't know the example that you were talking about, Terry, or the city attorney and or the city manager. But that polarization shouldn't exist, and it shouldn't be on political biases. And there should not be the county versus the city. And many times that's the case, and it's frustrating, especially a business that operates in both, and we do. We operate within the city, we operate within the county. And what I would ask of the county fathers as well as the city fathers and mothers, no offense, is that you consider those things that are best for us locally and not just adopt your national politic and stand by that as your resolve for all decision making. We cannot affect things on a national basis. We can all go in the ballot box and we can all vote for national issues, and that's how we affect that. We must also be able to reflect on those decisions that are local and act locally, because we can really affect some change locally, whether it's county commissioners or city councilmen. So I don't know, and Shaq would know better probably, who is at this point interfacing with the city council and or city fathers. That's important. It was important to me as a candidate, and it's important to me as a business owner and a citizen that, you know, there's no doubt that Cortez is the hub. It is our hub in our county, and it should work closely with our county to develop business and practices that allow businesses to move forward in a pace that's beneficial for all. So I appreciate this time and this platform. Thank you, Terry.
Yeah, thanks, Monty. I had Monty come, and I'll tell you, I hear about the permits that you pull. some of them for me and some of them and some of the struggles that you've had. And I think if we all work together, we can resolve a lot of those. And that's one of the reasons I really wanted you to come. Because, you know, we just did a pretty big job and you know, we had to pull permits. And, you know, I hear good, goes really good, and then I hear sometimes not so good. So, you know, as we get together, you know, if we communicate and you know our needs and we know your needs because you have as many as we do, we can come together and make it work, but that has to happen. And it really starts at your leadership. You know, your top leadership filters down. So if you have people that aren't listening and aren't doing it, they need to see your leadership as well, because I think they look at you and they mimic some of the things that you do as well. So, yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Who's next? Come on. And thanks for coming.
My name's Dave Waters. I just want to make a short comment. I would like to ask the city council, and first of all, thank you for being here and attending this and giving us the chance, but I would like to ask the city council to pitch in with the county, because what's coming down the road probably isn't good, and fight for our businesses to keep them open and help us out. We really need your help. The city has a lot of influence. And I may not live in the city of Cortez, but I own businesses here. I have rentals. And when this all happened and the county was fighting for us, I don't know about everybody else, but my personal opinion was, where is the city council? We didn't hear from anybody that I know of. So I'm just here to ask you, I know what's coming. Please fight for our businesses. We need your help. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Okay, who's next? And I can kind of echo that. Any communications that I've had with the city have been from me to the city. You know, whether I started it with a phone call or a text or an email. I don't get that back. And, you know, I'm a pretty large business and an old business in town as well. You know, that's the gap that we see. If we don't hear anything, we come to our own conclusions, don't we? And, you know, what a better way to squash any conclusions that we may have that aren't so positive as we get together and talk. And I think it's very, very important. I think I've heard it echoed a couple of times. So who would like to come up next, or Gwen? Thank you for coming.
My name is Glenn Layton. I live in Cortez and own a business in Cortez. The first thing I'll say is thank you for being here. I'll thank the new council right now. I'll start out with a nice thanks. I'm one of these guys that I look at possibilities in the future. I don't like looking behind me, because usually there's too many, you know, troubles behind me, and if I turn around, it'll get me. So I don't look back. I want to look forward. And I think what struck me through what I've heard tonight is this is a really good opportunity for this council. You're all a lot of new people that you've been thrown into by choice a situation that can be volatile. It can be just like every election, you know. Congratulations or condolences, depends on the day. But to this point, I want to say every communication I've had with the county, the city, everybody's been really positive in trying to take care of this, and they have pretty good understanding. The one thing that really kind of gets me, and I kind of throw this out as a challenge question, or maybe a question for thought. On the front end of trying to start a business, you've got somebody that has a brilliant dream, they think, and they want to start a business. You can put it the other way. they see a little piece of property that there's an old rundown, beat up shack on it. You know, I could make something out of that. I can turn that around. I can make this into something positive. Then you go in, and I've heard different things, but I think some people know how to get along and make things work. Other people don't. I think if you can make it a really user-friendly, a lot less costly on the front end, when it comes to them trying to do these things, they'll probably buy a lot of the materials here. You'll get the sales tax revenue off of that. If they're trying to start a business, what would that sales tax revenue from that business generate over 10 years compared to the higher cost of that up front? Most people, when they're trying to start, unless they are a big box chain that comes in and takes business from everybody else in the community already, they got the money to come in and do what has to be done. But there's a lot of people that just have a dream and they want to try it. And I've always been a believer, you know, let them do it affordably to where then that has improved the look of that block. It's a better house than the one that was run down and lived in for all those years, but still a great piece of property. And it's your golden opportunity to shape what happens in the city of Cortez now. You know, I don't like bringing up history, but the land use code proposal saw what happened when people finally woke up. Most people don't come to meetings, unfortunately. There's a few people that are very vigilant, and I thank them very much for that, because they do keep an eye. And it's not that you're doing anything wrong, you're not getting communication. And I think if we can open up the communication, make it a user-friendly system, and that goes for both. And that's in between both. That's the interface between all the counties, the county and the different towns, but Cortez mainly. I think we can make the, I mean, I see it as we can improve the whole thing. I kind of been one of those guys, I just go ahead and do it and try to get it done and keep it within, you know, I mean, I try to make sure I'm within everything, but as far as putting, I painted the heck out of my building, you know, and I just got on with a good artist. These windows of opportunity open up, and you've got a great artist that can really improve or make an improvement to your facility. You go, get it done, and then, you know, that window shuts down. You can't do it again. Can't afford to, can't. And I would really like to see us look to a bright future instead of looking at the past and everybody being so damned hateful to each other. You know, we get a lot more things done if we work together. You know, and you got people just use some common sense. But as far as this virus, we're gonna beat this thing. It's probably already been through here. Who knows? That'll never. I think if you can just help people stay in business or whatever it is, don't throw marbles under the roller skates. Anyway, I tried to keep my mouth shut, but thank you.
Thank you, and I think that's really good. I will tell you, you know, with my customers, and I think they would echo back, you know, I put a lot into that emotional bank account. If I misstep a little bit, they give me a little bit of a pass, not a lot, and I don't expect a pass. So I want everybody to know that. But you know, when you have the relationship there, things go a heck of a lot better. I mean, a heck of a lot better, and that's on both sides. I'll tell you, on the land use code, I didn't stand up. We were in a crisis because I didn't know if I can service many of my customers on the fiber anymore. So I'm planning, plan B. And still today, I'm not getting communications on that. You know, I've asked questions, are you really going exclusive? Because I need to figure out how to blanket this city with wireless if that would happen, which means I got to spend a lot of money. I'd much rather work out a deal, but no one's talking to me. So, with that said, as we go through, the more we do this, the better we'll be, because we'll build up that emotional bank account. And as I talk to the community, there's no emotional bank account when we talk about the city. There's a few good wins, and I gave you a great one with Rick. He did great, and I appreciate that. On the flip side, you know, I'm brand new to the community, and I didn't feel welcome with Cortez, the city of Cortez, to the point, you know, I mean, I felt just very adversarial. As the new council came in, that's why I reached out to you guys. Not everybody got back to me. So, you know, I mean, I still have that in my mind. And not everybody's here tonight as well. And I think this is very important. I think that in order for that to happen, people do need to attend these things, because if you win the businesses, you'll win the residential side as well. Every time I've gone up and competed, if I focused on the businesses, you know, my business, I do a lot of residential as well. I won the one in the residential side as well, because many of those businesses are your residences as well. So that's just, you know, kind of some guidance going forward. Boy, I tell you, call me for anything. I'd be happy to hear from you guys. You know, I know Jim calls me off and on periodically. I'm sure Kent will be now that he's got his new job. And, you know, Jerry and I talk on a daily basis. And sometimes it's about the weather, and sometimes it's about real problems that we have in our businesses. But never, we have so much in that bank account that, you know, if something happens, I know, and I'm confident he's going to fix it for me. And when I look at the city, you know, Aloe's happening, right? I don't know there's a place for me in here, because no one's ever sat down with me and said, you know what? We want local business in here. We want fair and open competition as well. Because all my customers here, their fear is they're going to have to deal with Nebraska. See, here, they can come over to my office and grab me by the neck. And they like that feeling, and I take good care of them. Taking a choice away from people is the worst thing you can do. So, you know, I want you guys to think about that, because these are my customers. I love them, and I make commitments to them, and I plan on keeping them one way or another. I'd really like to do it arm in arm with the city. I really would. So, you know, who's next? Come on up, Jerry.
My name's Jerry Ayers, and I don't even know why I'm here, to be honest with you. I'm not going to be as long-winded as Mr. Tom was. I want to thank David and Lana for bringing to your attention the fact that the city offers a very small stipend to local businesses for bid jobs and projects. So, and I could really go into that for a long ways. And I do work for Circle Zebra. I do work for Terry. I work for the county. I know pretty much everybody in the room. But I'm going to flip that just a little bit. My wife does own a business in the city, and I own just enough of that to be called a janitor. All right? Now, I'm going to commend Shaq. She started this business kind of like Greg said. It was a dream. 3 years ago now, I believe it's been. And at that time, that was before Shaq sat in here, and he was the only one. He was with the county and worked with the county. He was the only one that visited with her about it. She's been in this city that entire time, and nobody with the city has contacted her. Get your permit, pay your taxes, and we don't want to be bothered with you. And that's what a lot of these people right here feel like. Get your permit, pay your taxes, and we don't want to be bothered with you. We don't even want to know who you are as long as you're paying your taxes. That's wrong. That's really wrong. So we'll continue with our little piece of the rock. We'll continue paying our taxes and all of that. And we live out of the city limits. So we don't have any say in what you do at all. All we can do is pay our taxes to you. We can make sure that the people that work for us spend their money in Cortez and pay their taxes. And I am not going to tell you the name of the business because I'm going to let you figure it out for yourself. Now that might take you 2 minutes and it might take you the rest of the month and you may never figure it out. How fair is that? Now you know how we feel. You know how all these people in this room feel. You're the ones that wanted to do this. I heard somebody tell me, well, the only reason I done this is because nobody else wanted to. It's a pretty poor reason, people. Sounds to me like you got way more time on your hands than you need. Or you're on a power trip. I don't know. I don't know which. I really don't. And I can stand up here and talk all night because it don't mean anything. I don't live in the city. Okay? I have brought businesses to this city and county for over 50 years. I've brought large businesses. Okay, I've brought business. I've brought the largest engineering company in the world in here and set up a business. Nobody, in the 4 years that we were here, 5 years, nobody, city or county, either one, ever walked through the doors of that business. Get your permits and pay your taxes. That's all we care about. And that's what I'm seeing and hearing right now. I don't like it. Kent's sitting back here. You don't see anybody else, but Kent's sitting back here. You two folks are sitting here. You don't see anybody else. So maybe there is a little bit of caring yet here. Maybe it's you folks that are going to start it. Maybe you're going to be able to work with the county. But you need to get a handle on what you signed up for. You're the ones that need to go out and learn these people, learn who they are, learn what their businesses are. Have you ever walked down Main Street and walked into one of those businesses? Have you ever drove down Montezuma and walked into one of those businesses and said, hi, I'm city council. What can I do for you? You haven't. I can tell by the looks on your face. So I just want you to know that, like I say, we have a business. It's a very small business, but it is in the city. And I don't have a say in what you do with it. I don't have a say in how you permits go. I don't have a say in anything other that eventually I'll do some work for you somewhere. But you signed up for this, so why don't you learn what you signed up for? Because you signed up to help the people. And that's pretty much all I got to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. And, you know, I'll go back to the Constitution. You know, the reason we have a Constitution is because taxation without representation. And I think you're hearing that pretty screaming right now. And again, we contribute. We ought to have a little bit of a say. So take that back. Kent, don't you have anything to say for tonight?
I'm just listening.
Okay, good.
Taking the wrong way in.
All right. Well, good.
I appreciate these people being here, though.
Yeah, I do too, and heartfelt. I wouldn't have set this up if I didn't think Rachel was absolutely committed to helping us out. I wouldn't have done it. You know, I mean, it was a lot of work for me. Yeah, I called, I don't know, a ton of people, and that takes a lot of time out of the day that I could really focus on my business. But I felt it was so important, and I think you do too. You know, anybody else like to come up and have anything to say?
If not, I could go to Zoom.
Yeah, and then I would like Rachel and Robert to come up and talk to us as well. Absolutely.
Okay, so the first one on the screen is Christine Fraley. Christine, do you want to say anything?
No, I'm just here to listen. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for listening, Christine.
Okay, Tiffany, anything you'd like to add?
Hi there. First of all, I want to thank Robert, Rachel, and Arlena for showing up tonight. I really appreciate your time. I know that it's valuable to all of us, and I do really appreciate you being here. I think you, as many people have spoke before me, you can see a lot of redundancies that are happening. I think a key factor is communication and the lack of in a lot of areas. And I think it's important to remember that a rising tide lifts all ships. So as business owners, we're not your enemy. We would love to work with you. If you ever need anything, you are absolutely welcome to walk into my doors and to get my honest opinion or to ask me anything. I'm honestly open to that, but a lot of times I feel like when we've gone through certain situations with the city, it almost feels like we're somewhat of enemies because we have different viewpoints. But I think it's just important to remember that a rising tide lifts all ships. We are in this together. As business owners, we have a lot invested into the community. So we become pretty passionate about certain subjects. So if you, and we also have different perspectives on things that, I mean, you guys have different perspectives from your situations and where you're sitting. I'm sure the seats that you sit in on council definitely give you different information and different ways of thinking. But to bounce things off of each other, we could work very well together instead of trying to do this tug of war almost back and forth when certain issues come up. And sometimes people become passionate because they're caught off guard. And I think it does come back to communication, transparency with your businesses. So thank you. I appreciate you guys being here.
Thanks, Tiffany. I appreciate that.
Karen Sheik is on there.
I just came to listen tonight. Thanks, Shaq.
Yep. Okay, I guess.
Thanks
I'll
for tuning
leave.
in, Karen.
So before Rachel and Robert speak, I'll just say from the county's point of view, I took notes too, and I'm listening. That's it. You guys knock yourselves out.
I'm going to get up so I can see everybody. My back. Thank you. So I want to thank you all for coming. You know, it's not an easy job, but you're right, we did sign up for this, and, you know, we're here to represent everyone's voice and listen and, you know, make decisions, informed decisions, and do what we think is best. So I want to emphasize what we learned tonight we'll bring to council, you know, and we'll have discussion and see where we can go from there. But I want to work on, communication is definitely a theme here. So I want to figure out what we can do to communicate with you guys better, and what we can do to help with expectations, like what you guys expect of us and how we can reach that. Sorry, I'm not very eloquent, but and I'm a little nervous, but I want you to know that you guys can call me anytime. Personally, you know, I will go into every business. I think that's a great idea. I mean, there's many businesses that I do frequent, but there's some that I haven't been to yet. And I'll share my cell phone number tonight, and you know, I want anybody can call me, as Terry knows, and I'll answer. Doesn't mean that changes are going to happen tomorrow. Doesn't mean, you know, that. But it does mean that we're here to listen and that we are going to talk about these things, and we want to become aware of them. I had more to say, but I'll let them talk for now. So, but thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. I didn't forget about you, Arlena.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. I would like to just second some of the things that Rachel said. I do think I wrote it down with everyone who said anything tonight, is that communication is the key. And in addition to feeling free to reach out to me. I'm going to make sure to reach out to the business community. I've only been on the city council since I was appointed about 10 to 12 days ago, but I definitely look forward to hearing from the businesses and making sure that we can kind of grow Cortez and grow Montezuma County together. And I'll let Arlena say something as well.
Okay, Arlena.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you, everyone. I really do appreciate the opportunity to be here and to listen to everyone this evening. Especially while I was running, I really tried to emphasize the importance of meeting our constituents where they are, and I'm just really grateful to Rachel and to Terry for pulling this together. So, I am going to just sound like an echo here. I wrote down everybody's comments, and I agree that communication is a huge piece. I agree that consistency is a huge piece. And I agree with the concept of transparency, but I struggle a little bit with that because I feel like it's a term that's can be very amorphous, and I have my perception of what transparency is, but I would like to know what
I would like to know what she was going to say next.
She is not with farmers.
Ooh, the whole thing just disappeared.
terminology, then we may be failing you guys in that respect.
So, Arlena, you cut out about 45 seconds ago. You said you would really like to know, and then the internet blinked out. So.
Oh man, did I already hit on transparency?
Yes.
Okay, so I think it's really important for us to have a common understanding of what is expected in that transparency, so that we're not just missing the mark when it comes to that concept. So if anybody that's still in the room, maybe Lana brought it up and Tiffany brought it up, I guess I'd like to know a little bit more of what your perception of transparency from the city would look like, so that we can have a common terminology. And other than that, this has been really great. I've just been jotting notes down this whole time. Thank you.
Thanks, Arlena. Anyone care to respond to the question?
And if you're able to go to the microphone, because I can't hear you as well.
Sorry, we're not here anymore.
Yes, outreach is huge. I think that there was times early on this spring that I felt like we didn't have a city council. Yes, you guys were new. You were taking on a lot of stuff. There's still some things with the council that I'm not sure where we stand. Where do we stand with our finances? Where do we stand with our audits? You know, I think through that whole mess, there was not a lot of transparency. And I don't think that falls so much maybe on this council as it maybe did the shoulders of somebody else. But I think that as a community, we deserve to know a lot. Those were our tax dollars that were missing. This is our money that needs to be audited. Where do we stand? Where are we at? I don't think I even know. I don't think that that's been communicated well. I think that Zoom meetings are really hard on communication, and that may be the new norm. I don't know, but that's where I was going with transparency is outreach is huge, and letting us know what you're doing with our tax dollars and where everything's going. So, thanks.
Yeah, I'll expand on that a little bit, because every city council meeting, and I try to attend all of them on either live stream or on Zoom. Now, where's the city attorney's report? Where's the city manager's report? Where's the finance report? I mean, I think that's important to me. When I meet with my board, I give them a report on every aspect of the business. I leave no stone unturned. When I listen to y'all's, we talk about initiatives in front of us. We don't talk about the budgets except on your budget meeting, and then we don't always get the whole thing. But those guys need to do reports. I've lived in more cities than I care to imagine or admit to, because in my business, to move up, you had to move. So every one of them had a city manager's report, and they went through all the way up to, they talked about terminations, they talked about, budgets, they talked about, how much money they saved on this initiative, how much money they saved over here. I don't see any of that. And I want to know, especially because we had all that mess, that the elephant in the room, something happened, and had you been getting reports, I can tell you, I parse the report and I can tell you something's going on. I'm a statistical guy, and my whole business career has been trying to anticipate what my competitors were doing. So I go through statistics, how my customers are doing. I go through all those statistics. I try to find holes where maybe I'm visiting a customer too many times. So that tells me I got to go call somebody and do something. So yeah, I think that's really important for you guys to start that. It's not going to be popular. I can tell you that right now. They're going to moan and groan, but you guys are the leaders. You need to make it happen. I don't listen to a lot of excuses, when it comes to that in my business, because I don't have time to. I'm responsible to everyone in this room and my board. So just something you can take forward. I mean, I think that would just be huge, for sure. Anyone else?
I guess, and I just have a few questions, and you don't have to answer tonight. But in terms of communication, so how can we get information out to the community better, besides like during our meetings? Is Facebook or press releases in the newspaper, or a combination of, or posting announcements across town, or calling up key people who can help spread information, or having open hours, like drop-in hours. Because I know when Karen was the mayor, she had kind of open office hours, so you knew she was going to be at city council city hall during these times, so that anybody could drop in and talk to her. She also, I think, did a column or wrote stories for either the newspaper or maybe the Free Press. Are some of these ideas key ones, or should we do all of it to reach, a broad audience? I don't know. I guess, what do you guys think? Because, I've got ideas, but I want to hear what you think is best. So.
I'll take that. Answer is yes. Try it all, figure out what doesn't work, but at least we see that you're doing something.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I do that a lot, I plan a lot of things. I throw a lot of stuff up there. Well, you know what? This one didn't work too good. Try and figure out what happened, and maybe I can tweak it, or maybe you just throw it behind you and it's in the rearview mirror. You don't have to look at it again. But I think the answer is yes. I think you try a multitude of things and see what works best for us. I think if we could start having some of these, a good round table. Mm-hmm. I did an initiative, and here's an example. I knew what my customers wanted. So I did same-day sales and service. I put a technician out there and dressed them up like, Indiana Jones with the bullwhip and everything, and they went door to door. They sold DSL, and installed it right then. So then I took all those customers and brought them in and said, how do we do? And they said, boy, that was great. That was innovative. We've never seen that kind of response from you, but that's not what we want. And you can think I was shattered at that point. But then they told me exactly what they wanted. They said, we want to schedule our installs when it's convenient for us. I went to my tax and they said, well, we do our troubles in the morning. I said, well, if you did them at noon, what difference would it make? And they're like, well, I don't know. And, you know, so the customer said, I want 8 to 9 because I don't want to have to go into work and come back. It made sense to me. I missed it. I wasn't even in the right, universe there. But because of that communications and pulling them back in for feedback, I learned a lot. And I was extremely successful with it. So successful, my boss tapped me on the shoulder and said, now go deploy it in everybody else's region. You can imagine me going to my peers and saying, I'm going to do this in your region. So sometimes, like Mitchell said, be careful what you wish for. But with that said, our company saw a 3% customer service satisfaction increase. That's huge when you look at those statistics. 1% is the best you can hope for, and I got a 3.5. So I slammed it out. But what I did is I really, really dug deep into what my customers needed. And honestly, we're your customer. So to answer your question, I think you try all of it and see what works for you. And you'll find it, if you work hard enough, I promise you. You'll find it and it will be there. And the more we do this, the less adversarial we're going to be when you have something really big, like the land use code or even the airport. If we'd had a little more insight into that, maybe a lot more communications, that would have been a non-issue, I think. And again, when I talk about my business, I haven't heard back. I've asked every city council member a question, and no one called me back and told me, we can't answer that question today. They didn't even do that. I just heard nothing. Some I asked 2 and 3 times, and they still haven't answered that question for me. So I feel abandoned, So I think we can fix it. I think it's easy. I think, the hardest part is this, taking feedback, taking it back home, and creating a plan. But once you start getting people engaged, there's nowhere you can't go. I mean, in my business, if the city fiber went away, it's detrimental to my business, but I have a plan. The lack of communication caused me to do something, which also affected your revenue. As I start folding people off of the city network. And you know what? I think a lot of people thought when Nebraska moves in that you're going to get it back. How many of you guys are going to go back to Nebraska? How many people are going to stay with me? How many people want a choice? Because if I start not servicing you, you want to be able to go somewhere else. So I think that's my ask. I don't care if they come in. They've got a lot more money, access to a lot more money than I do. I'm a small business. Been here 100 years though. And I'm loyal to the community, and the community's loyal to me, as you can kind of see here. So, I think that's the stuff that we need. That's the meat of the meat and potatoes that we need to look at. So, and I want it to happen. I want us to have a good relationship. I lose sleep because of this mess, because I'm responsible to my board and my employees and my customers, and I love every one of them, and I prove it to them every single day. And if I don't, they'll come and tell me, and I'll course correct and make it happen. And I think that's what we want out of this. We want you to love us too, and we want you to be our partner. And anybody disagree with that? So, okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm done, so I'm not going to talk anymore.
We'll let everyone go home for dinner, but.
So.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'm going to go ahead and end Zoom now. So I guess that will be the end.
Thank everybody. I really appreciate it. I think we made some ground tonight, and I hope we can continue to build on it.
Yeah, thanks, glad to.
Yeah, big shout out to the county and thank you.
Th-